Every running C program has two neighborhoods where it can park its data. The stack is like a tidy, fast elevator, small, automatic, and tightly organized. The heap is like a giant warehouse, huge and flexible, but you have to fetch and return your own boxes. Pick the wrong one, and your program either crashes or crawls. When you allocate on the stack, the CPU just moves a pointer down by a few bytes. That's literally one instruction, O of 1, lightning fast. The heap is the opposite. malloc has to grab a lock, then wander through free lists and bins hunting for a chunk the right size. Picture a sprinter versus a librarian searching the shelves. Stack data lives and dies with its function. When your function returns, its stack frame is unwound automatically, last in, first out, and the memory is gone. Heap data, on the other hand, lives forever until you call free on it. Forget to free, and you leak memory. Double free, and you corrupt the heap. The programmer owns that lifetime. The stack is one perfectly contiguous block, so it never fragments. The heap is a patchwork. Allocate, free, allocate of different sizes, and you end up with Swiss cheese. Tiny holes between blocks that nothing big enough can squeeze into. That's fragmentation, and it's the heap's main disease. So where do these regions physically sit in your process's memory? From low addresses upward. Your compiled code, then global data, then the heap growing upward toward the middle, then a gap, then the stack growing downward from the very top. They grow toward each other like two waterfalls meeting in the sky. With that mental map, let's see both regions in action in a tiny C program. The variable A will live on the stack. The pointer P will also live on the stack, but it will point to an integer that lives on the heap. Watch how malloc hands back an address, and how free returns it. Here is the whole program. We include stlib.h because we'll use malloc in free. The stio.h include is there so we could print values if we wanted to. Then comes our entry point, main, which the operating system calls when the program starts. Line 6, into equals 1. This declares a plain integer named a and initializes it to the value 1. The compiler reserves 4 bytes on the stack for a, right inside main stack frame. When main exits, those 4 bytes vanish automatically. No cleanup required from you. Line 7. Int pointer p equals malloc of size event. We're declaring p as a pointer on the stack, 8 bytes on a 64-bit system. But its value is whatever address malloc returns. Malloc asks the heap for 4 bytes, searches its free lists, and hands back a pointer to that chunk. P now points from the stack into the heap. Line 8. Star p equals 2. That star dereferences the pointer. Instead of touching p itself, we follow its arrow into the heap and write the value 2 into the 4 bytes that malloc reserved. So a holds 1 on the stack, and the heap block pointed to by p now holds 2. Line 9. Free of p. This is the programmer's responsibility. We hand the heap block back, and the allocator can recycle it for future mallocs. Forget this line, and that 4-byte block stays reserved until the program exits, a classic memory leak. Line 10, return 0. Main finishes. The runtime unwinds main's stack frame, which automatically destroys A and P. The pointer P is gone, so there's no dangling reference to the heap. If you forgot the free earlier, though, that heap block would still be leaked. Stack cleanup is free. Heap cleanup is on you. Every running C program divides its memory into distinct regions, and the two most important are the stack and the heap. The stack handles local variables with lightning-fast allocation, while the heap serves dynamic requests that must outlive a single function call. We'll prove this by writing a minimal C program, compiling it, and inspecting the result with standard Linux tools. We begin with a clean canvas by issuing the clear command, which simply wipes the visible scrollback so each step stands on its own. It's a small habit, but it makes terminal demonstrations far easier to follow. Next, we create our source file using printf pipe to a redirect. The program declares a local integer, A on the stack and requests heap memory with malloc for the pointer P. This single file is enough to make the operating system allocate both regions. We verify the file actually contains what we intended by running cat on it. The single line of C is small, but it clearly shows the stack variable assignment and the heap allocation call side by side. Now we hand the file to GCC. The compiler translates our C source into machine code and links it against the C library, which provides the malloc implementation. If the command returns silently with no errors, the binary /tmp/m has been produced and is ready to run. We execute the binary with /tmp/m. The program runs, allocates the stack integer, calls malloc, and exits cleanly with return code 0. Since the program produces no output, a successful run is shown by the prompt returning with no error message, exactly what we want. The file command inspects the binary and reports its type. Here we see it is a 64-bit ELF executable, dynamically linked, built for x86-64 Linux, and stripped of debug symbols. This confirms we have a real native program, not a script. Finally, the size command reports the sizes of the compiled sections. The text segment holds the machine code, data holds initialized globals, and BSS holds uninitialized globals. Our stack and heap regions are not part of the binary. They are created at runtime by the loader, which is exactly why they don't appear in this static snapshot. Run the program under a debugger or print addresses with printf, and you'll see the stack at high addresses and the heap at lower addresses, growing toward each other.